Welcome to Life in DNA with Amanda Renee. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe, or the notification bell to be notified of when I post a new video. I'd appreciate it. Thanks. I thought since it was November that I would try kind of a new series, and I don't know, getting ready for Thanksgiving. I was thinking about the Pilgrims, and I thought, as far as I know, I don't have any Pilgrims in my ancestry, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of research that and see if I do. I thought before starting this and starting to research it this weekend, I thought I had most of my lines researched pretty far out. But then I decided to Google how many. Well, first, the Pilgrims landed in 1620, so I needed to see about how far back I would need to go for that. And it would be around the 10th great-grandparents. So anywhere from 9th to 11th, give or take a little bit. And so I Googled how many 10th great-grandparents a person has, and it's 2,048. So I do not have that many lines researched at all, even though I've researched a lot. So it's like, well, I have my work cut out for me, and this, if I find several that were here long enough, then I might have quite a long series. Otherwise, I'll at least have enough for the month of November, because that's a lot of family lines, because that's taking all of not just your main namesake lines, but all the female ancestors as well, and that's where everything gets interesting and confusing at the same time, because there's just a lot of information. So I was trying to find all of that information on a few of my branches, and in doing that, I'm like, well, I don't want to pass up all the information and the fun stuff along the way on getting, from where I've gone to probably second or third great-grandparent all the way to the 10th. So it was taking me a while, because I would get distracted by the interesting things that my other great-grandparents did. But I would try to stop and see if I could even find enough information to get me to a 10th great-grandparent on a few lines. And in the process, I do remember that my grandmother's cousin, that I've mentioned a few times on here, he had sent me a lot of paperwork on the research that he's done on the branch where he and my grandma are related. And I remember there being a relative that was at Jamestown. And when I was doing my research about the dates and all of that, I didn't realize from my public school history education, I didn't realize Jamestown was actually founded before the Pilgrims landed. And when I was doing some research on a few other branches, I actually had some ancestors on living on the Isle of Wight off of Virginia, and that predated the Pilgrims landing at Plymouth. So you always just hear about the Pilgrims, and you don't realize that, well, there were other settlements around the same time and even before that, or at least I never realized that. So I got out my paperwork from my grandma's cousin and looked that up. I haven't connected the branches just yet. He gave me a lot of information from way back, all the way to as far back as he could get it. And I haven't physically on my tree and ancestry made the connection out. So I will be working on that also. But I do know this person is in my tree. He's just not physically on there right now. And his name was Henry Bagwell. And his story is fascinating, and there are a few books I want to get because there were some books written. One was written from a family member specifically about him, so I guess he must have been pretty interesting. And the other one was about the experience that he had, and I'll read from what my grandma's cousin sent. So Henry Bagwell, he was baptized in 1589. He's the one that came to Jamestown. His father-in-law was the mayor of Exeter in England in 1590. He was on the third wave of settlers going to Jamestown. A lot of the first set had died from harsh conditions, but he was on the third trip over there. Let's see. So he was from Exeter, Devonshire, England. He was on board the Sea Venture originally, and the Sea Venture crashed outside of, I think it was Bermuda. There was an island not far from America. I'll have to go back and double check that, but I think it was Bermuda. And they crashed close to there and made it ashore. And they made 2 ships out of the wood from the Sea Venture. And they named one of them Deliverance and the other one Patience, because it took them quite a while to rebuild those ships. I believe from some of the stuff I looked at, there was, I think, at least 1 murder, maybe, couple of mutinies. And so I want to get the book on that, and if I do, I will read it and talk about that, because that seemed fairly interesting. So then they went out on the ships. He was on the Deliverance and landed at Jamestown in May of 1610. And when I was reading about that a little bit, they got there, and it was like the time of starvation, I think they called it, and they were all gonna head back to England. They needed more supplies. The supplies that were supposed to be coming hadn't made it, and they were all loading up, but they were having trouble getting up the James River. And as they finally were making headway, the ship containing all their supplies and the stuff to help them out showed up. So they got to go back and, live out in Jamestown. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's kind of neat to have. I knew I've had several relatives that fought in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, even the War of 1812. But to actually have ancestors that were here for that many hundreds of years and were here before America even was founded, was even a thought in anyone's mind, that's pretty cool. I thought that was really interesting. There was another family that I was researching, John Hardy the First from Yorkshire, England. He was born in 1613. He was from England, but he came over here, and then he married Olive Elizabeth Council, and she was one of the ones born on the Isle of Wight off of Virginia in 1615. So that's 5 years before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth that she was born. And I'm working on researching who her father was. I believe he was the one that came over from England. So, what brought him? Why did they land there? I'm going to see if there's any kind of paperwork and information on that. I had never heard of any kind of settlements there ever talked about in history. If anybody listening or watching has any information on that, I would love to read it or hear about it. If you would comment or message me or even email me, because that's pretty interesting. I mean, that's 5 years. Her dad was there before that, before the Pilgrims even landed. That's pretty cool. And that's right after, so 5 years after my other relative landed in Jamestown. So it's probably around the same time that Jamestown was founded. So I just think that would be interesting to learn about. If anybody else has, as I know, there's obviously millions of people descended from actual pilgrims, and if anybody wants to comment and let me know, or message me and let me know, that would be cool. I would just be interested to learn about that. And I will be doing much more research. I know, I'm sorry, this podcast is pretty short. But I will be doing more research and trying to get more information about those relatives. Also, if you ever hear me mention a name that is in your family tree, shoot me a message, or a text or something, or not a text, a message or a comment about that, because that'd be pretty cool. I always like meeting new relatives. I have pretty big families on both sides, so I know there's a lot of you out there. It would be cool to meet up on here. So just, yeah. And if you like this video, give it a like. Subscribe to my channel. I promise I will have longer and more researched videos coming up real soon. It was just a busy week with Halloween and everything after it. So, and Thursday, I will be talking about letting go of anger and hurt and bitterness. And so stay tuned for that one. And then I will see you guys Thursday.